authenticity is what allows you to truly be at peace. And I think that like truly being at peace means living your truth, whatever that may be. You know what I mean? Like living in a way that feels like you are able to be honest with yourself and with others, and you don't feel like you have to hide any part of you.
When you were growing up, was it easy to live up to that definition?
I was first generation, immigrant parents, a very common like Latino kind of upbringing that so many of us go through. Understanding that, my parents had sacrificed so much, came in this country, and you have a lot of pressure on you to, take advantage of the opportunities that they didn't, like of almost like being an adult very early on because like, my parents didn't speak English. So it was like 10 years old. I'm over here like translating like legal documents, like, you know what I mean? Like writing checks, like making decisions that most little kids like usually don't. I don't know if you've seen this, but on TikTok, it's like this trend on that these they'll be like adults, like they'll be like 26 years old or something already, but they're like, this is my first time, calling to get my own health insurance, and my mom's on the phone like helping me do it, and they're like laughing about it. And I just was watching those videos, and so many people being like, oh, my mom still helps me with this, my mom still helps me with finding whatever. And it just made me realize like, what, like that is not something that most Latinos can relate to, because for so many of us, we came from immigrant households where we were the ones doing that, and we're still doing that for our parents, so we never really had somebody do that. So I think that a lot of me was like trying to be there for my family, trying to like make them happy, trying to just like make others happy.
Yeah, not as real. It's like by the time you're 6, you're already an accountant, a lawyer, a business owner. You might as well be translator. Yeah. To this day, I'm a translator. It's funny because these days what I do, I've evolved in my career, in my career relationship with my mom. I've evolved from translator to now I'm like a tech enthusiast, almost like introducing her to gifts and text messaging, showing her like connected TV,
You're literally like a tech expert for your mother. Like you like set up their phone one time, they're like, oh my God, you're like download like the Facebook app. They're like,
yeah.
Wow.
But that's really powerful what you said though around like, there's so much pressure because our family sacrificed so much for us to be where we are. Like, talk to me about that pressure that you encountered when you were growing up.
Now that I look back, I'm like, okay, I'm grateful for I find things like, okay, I'm grateful for all these things. Everything was a lesson, whatever. But I guess ignorance was bliss, because like I didn't really know another way existed. Like even when I would watch those videos and I see that, there's people that are already almost like 30 years old and their parents are like helping them with certain things like that. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know that existed. Like, that's crazy. So I think for me, I never knew any other way. And the only way I ever knew was being incredibly responsible ever since I was like a little kid, like always super showing up, like always being, an adult, always making sure people always counting on me, like always being the one that just like got things done. Like no matter what it was, I always figured it out. And so that's kind of like a hustle mentality that I grew up with that doesn't go away. And sometimes it kind of can be toxic, where I've tried to fight with it, and that I just always feel like I need to be productive. And now that I'm an adult, like now that I'm an adult, what I've been trying to do every year, like I'll have my regular goals, like career goals or whatever goals of things that I want to do to be a better, version of me. But then also I'll have goals that the only reason why I want to do that thing is because I want to have fun. For example, like I want to learn how to like horseback ride. It's not going to help me make more money. It's not going to help me like in anything other than like a skill that is going to be fun. And that's the end goal, enjoying myself. Like there's no ROI on it other than, I don't know, happiness.
I love that. My girlfriend makes fun of me all the time because it'd be to the point where we wake up in bed together and like I'm trying to wake up and do something as quick as possible. She's like, no, stay in bed. I'm like, no, like you don't get it. I got to be productive as early as possible. If not, my anxiety is like at an all-time high.
Gemini or Virgo?
See, you all right. So for the record, you missed 3 times.
Really? Wait, none of them?
At first you thought I was a water sign, right? I
Yes, I
forget
did.
what you said, Cancer, Gemini, Virgo. All right, so 0 for 3. By the end of this, I think you're gonna get it just by process of elimination. No, but that's dope though. Like I actually recently got into a few different things to still like feel productive, feel like I'm doing something, but it's not necessarily revenue generating. Like the thing that I did the other day, like I just went to Michael's. I don't know if they got Michael's in LA. It's kind of like an art shop. And I just bought a bunch of canvases, blank canvases and paint. And I just started painting more like abstract things. Like I don't consider myself an artist, but it was one of those things where like it felt productive enough, but still wasn't necessarily revenue generating. But to this day, like thinking back at that, I was still like cringing as I was like going through the paint strokes. I'm like, I'm not doing something traditionally productive. Like, how did you get to the point where you even
Exactly.
found like horseback riding?
Yes, I think like as a little kid, like so many things that you do, like that is the only goal. Like you don't, we were the opposite. You know what I mean? We would choose activities and like we would purposely put ourselves in situations where we're probably going to be bad at something. Like, oh, go and do volleyball for like a month, and like, you're probably going to suck. And eventually, you know, you have no end goal for it. It's just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go like kick a ball now, or I'm gonna go like do something else, you know?
Yeah.
So like I'm gonna do this little like, I don't know, like pottery class or whatever you're doing. And I think that like as adults, we kind of stopped doing things that we know we may not be good at. We like only do things that are gonna be productive, like get as much you know, return on our energy, or you know, super productivity, whatever. And so I like keeping that childish theme or a tradition as into
Energy.
adulthood. Yeah.
It's interesting when we think about pressure, because I often think about like, where's the pressure coming from? My family never told me like, yo, you better make X amount of money so that you can support me X, Y, and Z. I mean, they
Yeah.
may joke about it here and there because my mom's a jokester, but like many times it's like me putting the pressure on myself. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, is that a similar thing for you too?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest privileges of like somebody who grew up well off is like you never had the feeling of being poor. Being poor at any part of your life, especially like as a child, and that being normal and then not being in that anymore makes you puts that pressure in. I never want that to happen. It's almost like a fear that lives in the back of your head that kind of like follows you throughout life. I always need to be productive because then I'm going to be poor or something. And it's just why
Yes.
do and it's just a like internalized, I don't know if it's like this toxic thing that it's like hard to let go of. And I know I have it too in my back of my head of like there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. Like it wasn't even like I was still happy. Like, yeah, I was broke and like when I was a little kid, but like, you know what I mean? Like I was happy. I was loved. Like I had my family, but it's like a hard feeling to let go of.
Talk to me about how that pressure or even that mindset impacted when you started going to school and even like started thinking about like, oh, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because from what I remember, I think you was trying to get into law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because the more I reflect as to when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, like throughout my whole life, I've always been an overachiever. Like I've always been that kid of like, you put me in any situation, like I'm asking the teacher like are these the best classes, like what's a better class, is it the honors class? Like I remember being in ESL and seeing the kids that were like in the English classes and asking my teacher like how do I get into those, and she's like, you got to learn English, like girl, like well, that's rule number one, like you don't even know how to speak English. Then I was like, okay, can you give me, is there something like, can you like what can I do? And remember she gave me a book and like one English book, and I just remember like I literally memorized that book, and like I kind of like pretty much taught myself how to read in English. And then from like I've just always been that kid like, oh, I tested myself and signed myself to get into honors classes, to go into the magnet program. I would myself go into the college office at my high school and would try to figure out like what classes I need to, like I was just always, I was like school president and this and this and this. And to me, it was like the reason, my motivation was like I physically would go and see where my parents came from. Like where my parents came from was like so rural Mexico that what? Like, I'm not even like, I have very vivid memories of like going to the river to go take a bath in the freezing river, cold water. Like, I have vivid memories of like, you know what I mean? Like going out into this like hole in like the middle of nothing to like go to the bathroom, and like, just like, I felt like my family literally came from nothing. Like, my father crawled through a sewer. His first job was like working in the fields, picking oranges. Like, you know, I just have these memories, and these examples of like how hard they had to work. And I always felt like I should be so grateful. I should be so grateful. And I just felt a lot of pressure to make the most out of like whatever opportunities I had, even if I was like whatever school, whatever situation was. And when I now that I look back for so much of my life, I'm like, girl, like, damn, you're a little kid. Like, take a breath. Like, it's okay. Like, chill. But I think who I was kind of got me to where I am now. But now that I feel like I'm at a place where I do want to have that work-life balance, like, I do want to do fun things. I do want to do a lot of the things that I didn't get to do when I was younger because I was like too stressed out and on the grind, like going hard and doing the most at like 12 years old. Like, I want to be able to do that, even if I didn't back then now.
Yeah, I said this one time on TikTok about even going to school. I never went to school to learn. Like, I think people that come from that weren't, you know, low income or whatever you want to call it, like low income folks go to school to like get a job, whereas like people that weren't go to school to actually learn. Like, the concept of like taking a class to learn is so foreign to me. Like, even an elective, like the only reason I took an elective was to get a better grade so I can eventually get a job. You know what I mean? Like, I studied economics just to get a job in finance, just to make money. You know what I mean? And I think you also hear that as far as like, you know, the traditional career paths of like lawyer, doctors, like we try to get into like certain fields to produce and take advantage of the opportunity that we were given because we're so grateful for the sacrifices of our family too.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
So talk to me about when you started working in corporate. Like, you went from law to something else and eventually ended up in marketing. What was it like working for such a huge organization at a young age? And I'm just assuming there weren't many Latinas in your position
Yeah,
because
definitely
you were
not.
managing a team of like 20 people, right?
Yeah, I was like, well, right out of it, I had a team of like 13 people. I like right out of grad school. And like, yeah, it was like a lot of responsibility being in like my early 20s. But I've always been the type of person that, like, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm enjoying it or not, like, I don't like to let people down. Like, I'm like, I gave my word. Like, if I'm very into the idea. I've always been the kind of person that I'm like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm giving my word that I'm going to do it the best. And I'm going to like be so good at it, you know? So it's almost like I can't let them down because then I won't be keeping my word. And it's like, it's almost like toxic in the sense of like, why do you feel like you have to perform that high? Like, why do you feel like you have to like be perfect at it or do it so good? But it comes from that idea of me feeling like I gave them my word that I was going to be the best at this. So I think for me, getting so much responsibility early on, it made me want to work really hard I felt like I had something to prove, you know, like I wanted to make sure that after I left, they would be like, wow, these Latina girls, these young people that we hire out of college, these like women, this like all of these things that are represented. Because I feel like I would literally check off like so many minority boxes and just like one person, from like the age, the gender, the race, you know, race, etc. That I just wanted to make sure that I performed in a way that made them want to hire more people like me in the future.
Yeah. And did you, going into it, change any parts of yourself in order to, because the one thing is our performance, but another thing that a lot of people do is like visually, they want to provide a certain representation of themselves that it's like, oh, that woman is respectable. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah, 100%.
What did you do?
I was like straightening my hair. Like, I was just like so boring. Like, I was like dressing like super corporate. Like, I was taught, it was exhausting. I think not like what we talked about of like not being able to be your authentic self, or not being able to like feel comfortable in your own skin in the environment that you're in. Like, that is exhausting. Like, it's exhausting being like in a performative environment where you don't feel like you could just be at peace. And to me, peace is just being me. So yeah, I think it's definitely exhausting.
What was Julissa's corporate swag looking like? Like, did you have the earrings? Did you wear any jewelry?
I
Pantsuit?
almost feel like I had no soul. Like, I had no spirit. Like, it was just kind of like I don't know. I think I think I tried. I went into it with like, me, and then I was like quickly saw that was not the norm. And then it quickly was like, all right, let me try to like blend in, and like I don't want to, like I don't want to, I don't know, get in trouble or whatever, and just let me just do my job and like just be in my own little like world. And I was just that person that people thought I was shy. It's crazy. Like, people would literally think I was like a shy person. And I'm like, no, I just like don't know you. And I'm not gonna talk to anybody.
Yes. Yo, you know what's crazy? Like, I got the same feedback and I didn't know how to explain to them. I was like, yo, my mom told me not to talk to y'all.
Like, you're not my friend.
Yo, yeah. Cause mom, I would walk into work and like, I mean, I would tell my mom, I was like, mom, they go to happy hour. I was like, they drink at work and they like go out and they like have all these things. And my mom was like, no, that's a trap. Don't do that.
My family too, they're like, you cannot drink around your coworkers.
Yes.
So inappropriate. Like, do not like, don't let them try to like, make you be bad. They're probably trying to have you fail or something. She's like, don't trust them. It's like she almost like instilled this like distrust in white people and white corporate America.
Yeah, I'm like, mom, who hurt you?
Like, how many novelas have you watched? Okay. Like,
yes. Yo, my grandfather would not even novelas. I don't know if your family used to watch. Caso Cerrado.
Oh my God,
my
yeah.
God.
It's like, now I
Anything they
understand
saw
why
in
you
Caso.
have trust issues.
Yes. I'm curious too, when you did sort of bring your authentic self or like parts of yourself, it sounded like there was a little bit of pushback, whether it be verbal or nonverbal, right? Like, you probably got certain cues.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like for me, I was in just like a very corporate environment where like I would literally see people get written up for having not covering their tattoos straight up. Like, if someone had a visible tattoo, they would have to like put a band-aid on it or like not have it shown. Like, people would get in trouble over like, it was just like, one of those environments that kind of like what we talked about feeling like you have to be the first one in, last one out, or you're not doing your job correctly, or you're not taking your job serious. So I don't know. It was just like very fake. Like, everyone would act like, oh, the company is just like their whole life. And it's like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, it was just like, bro, what? Like, I don't know. Like, don't be fake. Like, I'm just going to sit here and not say anything because I don't think you guys want to hear what I have to say.
I get it. Something that my mom also told me was around social media. I don't know what social media was popping when you was working there, but that was also a thing. It was like, matter of fact, even in college, like my advisors would tell me like, yo, change your name on social media, like curate your social media to have a certain look, right?
Who cares? Leave me alone. Like, what? None of your business. Like, why do you care? Why do you want to control my whole life?
Yeah.
Even when I'm not at work, yeah, over here have a say in it. Like, literally traditional corporate America, like, I'm so, like, it's so invasive. I'm like, why do you care? What does what you getting drunk on the weekend have anything to do with whether you're gonna like come up with this report or whatever I need you to do on Thursday? Like,
Yes.
as long as you do your job, like, I don't care, let's go. Do whatever you want. That's your business. Like, I'm not, as long as you're not doing like things that are problematic in the sense of like, I don't know, like injustice or something, like, don't be a bad human being. But other than that, like, do you?
But like, how did you get to that point though, where you got the confidence to be yourself and not sort of get rid of the idea of like what professionalism is? Because and this is just a story that I'm making up in my head. You tell me if it's true or not, but even within starting your own business, right? The idea is probably like, oh, I'm my own boss. I can do what I want. But when you started, like, it was probably like, oh, maybe I shouldn't upload that video because like people are looking at me. What are my customers going to think? Like, did you
Yeah,
still
no,
have those
totally.
thoughts too?
Yeah, I think a lot of the, motivation behind leaving corporate and like starting my own business and getting into this, a lot of it was like being able to write my own rules on like what does a business look like what does a team look like, what is a business environment, create the business environment that I would want, show that like you can be a successful business and still have work-life balance and still have like teams that actually want to be there and the door is open to them. And like and I hate like also in work environments where people feel afraid to like go do something else. Like it's like you can't ever leave or quit. It's like things have to be bad in order for someone to decide that there's something else that could be better for them. Like who cares? Like I feel like that idea is so toxic that we feel like we can't leave something unless we're pushed out is bad. It's like, why can't we leave on good terms? Like,
Yeah.
why isn't that normal? And I think a work environment where you feel pressured to be there, you feel pressured to not explore other opportunities, it's like, why would you want someone who doesn't want to be there? Like, why would you want someone that's disgruntled? Like,
Yeah.
why don't you just create a cool work environment? And if people want to be there, they're be transparent. They'll stay. And if they don't, they leave. And who cares? Like, go find somebody else. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was like that environment is something that I wanted to have. Like, I wanted to work with people that like genuinely wanted to be there. And if they don't want to be there, like, no pressure. It's cool. Like, no hard feelings, just, I don't know. And then we have a big thing in our office, especially, and just like me in general, like my own mantra now is if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. Like if it's not fun, if it's not fun, it means like you're in the wrong role. If this is not something that like you find some kind of like joy or like it challenges you and you're like enjoying the process, at least like some part of it, like maybe you're not in the right position. Like maybe you're not doing something that like you're best suited for, like, and that person needs to explore where that is or what that would be. And with campaigns, like there's been a few campaigns that I'll be doing and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm like, then why am I doing it? Like, let's change it. Like, I have the power. Like, I can just scrap that idea. Like, I don't want to, like, who cares? So, we've been trying to be more intentional of like bringing fun into this space where traditionally fun is viewed as unprofessional. It's viewed as unproductive. It's viewed as like something that doesn't equate to success. But I want to prove, and also with our office, like instill that like fun is actually what equals success. Like fun is what equals productivity. Fun is what equals like having a great, productive like campaign. If we find things that we deem as fun and we enjoy working on, that's what we should spend our time on. That's the strategy that we should choose, not things that feel like miserable.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, you have fun, you do your best work. Like, did that happen as soon as you started working on Rizos Curls, or like when was that
No,
moment where
it's
you were just
journey.
like, yeah, when was the moment for you where you felt like, you know what, I'm very comfortable being my most authentic self as the CEO of this brand that I created?
I would say maybe 3 years into it. I think the pandemic honestly like helped really solidify and like mold me better into this person, just because like I feel like quarantine was just so transformative for a lot of people because it forced us to really look within, really take time to like be alone with your thoughts and yourself and get comfortable with like what you hear, like when there's no noise, when you quiet everything and there's no distractions, it's just you and your thoughts. Like, what do they tell you? Are they happy with you? And it's like, can you live with that? Like, are you comfortable with who you are without anything else? And I think that was like very eye-opening for a lot of people. And for some people it was really difficult. And for others, like it helped them grow into another version of them that maybe, is more authentic. So I think for me, definitely having that time of like reflection and just like being more introspective allowed me to get to that point.
That happened to me too. I mean, in many ways, like we're having Zoom calls. If you work from home, it's like we're inviting people into our home. So, I mean, there's so many people I've spoken to where it's like, yo, I got early ass calls. I'm inviting you into my home. You know what? I'm gonna wear my head wrap in a meeting. You know what? I'm not gonna dress up for that meeting. I'm gonna wear a t-shirt, or you know what? I'm finally gonna start speaking up. And people almost lost the fear of even like getting fired because of where the job market is now, and so many people are hiring. It's changed a lot of people. And I think the powerful thing about you becoming your authentic self, and I can't even take this line, a guest said it, Catalina Peña, shout out to her. She was like, when you become your most authentic self, what you end up doing is you become a mirror for other people. They see themselves reflected back at them, right? So by you being yourself, they might not see themselves completely in you, right? Like it may be the way you do your hair, the way you speak up for yourself, how you live your life on social media, like unapologetically. It could be so many things, right? But that's the powerful piece. And I'd love to get a sneak peek into your DMs. Let me explain, not that way, but I'm saying like a sneak peek into like some of the love that people probably show you. Again, this is a story I'm making up, but let me know if it's true. People are like, yo, you inspired me to be myself because of the way you live your life. Like, is that true?
Yeah, I think part of the reason why I think it's like important for me to be like, the face of my company and, do certain types of events. Like we had like our small business summit and we're constantly like doing a lot of things. Um, in interacting with our community and our customers and, people that, we meet through the business, is because I realized that like it means so much more to people than I thought it did. Being a self-funded business and being able to grow this business from literally nothing, like I'm talking like garage, like, you know what I mean? Zero marketing dollars, like, just like super DIY, to being able to grow it and do it in a way that I'm not compromising who I am. I'm not compromising my morals. I'm doing it in a way that it's like my own version, and I'm not taking any money. It's like, it's all me, there's not this like white man in behind. It's actually calling the shots. It's secretly the investor in this. It's like, no, it's this first generation, like girl from freaking Washington Crenshaw, that was able to make this happen. And I think for me, I'm so used to just kind of like putting my head down and just like working. Like I forget to like look up sometimes and realize like what's going on around me. And I think for so many people, it meant so much. It's meant so much to them of like, you're the first in a lot of these spaces. Like, and do you know what that means for everybody else that is now going to have an open door, hopefully an open door, and how is that going to change? And it is, sometimes it kind of makes me like emotional, like, oh my God, like, and it does give me some of that pressure of like, all right, I better Target, I better do bomb, like, all right, Ulta, I better do bomb, because there is a lot, lying on this. Like, it's not just about me, it's about so many other people that may or may not have an opportunity, depending on like how this retailer sees our performance. Like for a lot of people of color, like you unfortunately don't have the privilege of just representing yourself. Like you represent your whole community. Like you represent like everyone else that looks like you. They'll like try it out one time. They're like, I'm gonna try this Latina owned whatever one time, and if it works, then I'm gonna try out more. And if it doesn't, then that whole, all of them, like that doesn't work or whatever. I'm gonna, stereotype this and generalize it. So I realized very quickly that I was in so many of these spaces. I was the first, and that with that privilege came a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, I feel that. What were some of those emotions that came up besides the pressure when you think about the representation that you're creating?
I feel like a part of me made me like almost like mad that it was took so long. You know what I mean? A part of me was like, why is this just now a thing? Like, why, like, that's so ridiculous. And it almost made me like resentful. But then the other part of me is like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be here. Oh my God. Like, thank you, like, for taking a chance on me. Like, thank you for even like believing and like risking, you know. So it's like I feel like I'm like in both places, but I like kind of like what you said, that why can't we coexist in two things, you know? Like, why can't we be both? Like, why do we have to always just like pick one feeling or one person or one type of whatever to be in? Like, we can be many things at once, and that's okay.
Yeah, yep. Girl, you got my promo for plural. I see you. Last question. I love seeing the growth, you know, especially when we talk about that definition you had of authenticity, you know, earlier years when you were trying to fit in and all those things to the point where you are now. I love it. And like, our journey's not over, right? Like, we're continuing to grow. I'm curious, like, as you move forward, what's that one thing that continues to inspire you to continue being your most authentic self?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually feeling that peace of mind that comes with it. And I think that was like a feeling that was so foreign to me, you know, like I feel like for so long, like I would feel that anxiety and that stress of like, kind of like what you explained, you would like wake up and feel like you're already late to something, you know, and it's like the weekend, or, you know, like it's you have nothing that you have to be at, but like you wake up already feeling, you don't wake up with peace, you wake up feeling like you're already not doing something right. There's already something that you're missing out on, or there's like something better that you can do with your time. And I think that like me now, like I'm learning to not only prioritize like this piece that comes with being authentic, but also the ability to be present that it gives you. You know what I mean? I think that like being authentic and and finding this peace allows you to be so present and to get lost and really in tune with the present, that like nothing else exists. I'm like in this moment, and when I'm in this moment, future doesn't exist, past doesn't exist, nothing else matters other than like where I am and who I'm speaking to. And I think that it's like made me more appreciative of like every moment that I have, no matter who it is, like whether I'm like sitting at this podcast and I have like a million things going on, and I already know like as soon as this is done, I have to go into this meeting, I have to whatever. But it's like this moment when this is happening, like this moment is all that exists, and this moment is all that matters. And I'm gonna try to like bring that energy, bring that version, that authentic version of me into like all of these moments, so that it can be most fulfilling. And that is how I feel like that's what authenticity means to me now.